Welcome to the Holistic Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Keisha Blair, wife, mother of 3, author of Holistic Wealth, and founder of the Institute on Holistic Wealth. The show will showcase various experts in the key pillars of holistic wealth. Each week, we deliver the best information on how to become holistically wealthy and live your best life. Today, I have 2 very, very special guests with me, and that's Helena and Feven from 241 Cosmetics. They're co-CEOs and founders. They are sisters, best friends, and just amazing ladies. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
We're honored, Keisha.
I know, we're so excited.
So am I. I'm just so looking forward to hearing the story and everything. So guys, I want to hear how the brand started and like the journey, because I know you guys were political refugees, and I just want to hear about that journey to the US and how the brand and the company got started.
That is a loaded question. Oh, no, it's great. As you mentioned, hi, it's Helena. We're political refugees from a tiny country in East Africa called Eritrea. And we were born in a refugee camp in Sudan. And around 2 years old, basically granted asylum and got to come to upstate New York, to Rochester, New York. So they talk about culture shock, but we joke around. I'm like, there should be weather shock too, because just getting from a desert to just ice was pretty, that's just a whole book in itself.
Keisha, what's interesting is that when people ask our story, and I always say our story began before we were ever born. So our mother and our father actually walked from Eritrea to a refugee camp in Sudan. And I asked my father one day what that was like. And he said, you know, because Helena and I are based in Los Angeles, he said, it's like walking from LA to San Francisco.
Wow.
And that's very far.
Yes.
And he's like, it took us a couple of months, but we got there.
A couple months.
Yeah,
it's
they had to walk.
It's a long distance.
Wow.
But we carry this story with us because it just really just applies to our DNA, and that this idea that being resilient and just having that endurance is in our bloodline. And you need to have both of those qualities to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And that's what drew me to your story so much, because that level of resilience and just the strength, the sheer strength that it takes to do that and to become an entrepreneur. So can you tell me how the brand and the business started?
Well, Helena and I have always had, this entrepreneurial, I would say, drive within us. Actually, we were raised in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. And we actually were doing makeovers on our friends around how old were we? Maybe 8 years old. And it was just a way for us to forge new friendships because the neighborhood was predominantly white and we were these Eritrean immigrants. Right. So it was our way. So we would just, we were doing these makeovers and charging people, fake money. It wasn't real money. You know what I mean? But it was like lollipops.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
There was some form of currency, but not really involved. But it was just our way of just, forging these friendships and connecting with these little girls in the neighborhood because we felt like we didn't fit in. Isn't that interesting? Especially because when you look at the beauty space and the landscape, it isn't, Mine and I have always been about inclusivity, even as little girls, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just as when we were little, we would do these makeovers, but then also we would look at our mother. Our mother was a housekeeper, and she worked actually had multiple jobs growing up, and a nurse's assistant, a housekeeper in the church that we grew up in that sponsored us. It was Third Presbyterian Church in Rochester, New York. And our father was, when we first came to the U.S., was the janitor. So he went from being this revered political figure in Eritrea in the front, literally a leader in the front line, to a janitor. And then you just that taught us essentially humility and doing what you need to do to really rise and to the occasion. In America was no small feat whatsoever. You had to learn a new language and things like that. So our mother used to wear her lipstick, and it was her way it was really a coat of armor in a way, just to just make her feel more like, here I am. And we just remember those moments when we were younger. It's like makeup is not something that's just a very shallow or a frivolous thing. It's something that is a healthy form of self-love, really, and an acknowledgement.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add to what Helena was saying, that it's so true. So when we did come to the United States, our mother was the housekeeper and our father was the janitor of the church that sponsored us. And Helena's absolutely right. I do, we have these moments we remember our mother putting on her lipstick, and it was her way of saying, hey, I'm here, hello world. And then, as we got older, it was incredible to see our parents excel in their professions. And then my dad also, he got his master's in public administration. So they're the best examples of, the people that have used the system in the best way and are the best examples to us of the American dream.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. And especially how you describe your mom and, what lipstick meant to her, which is just amazing for so many women. And it really does. You guys mentioned that the company is 100% bootstrapped. And so I just want to talk a bit about that, because I know so many Black women, and for so many women, in general, it's so hard to get funding. And so for many of us, that's the route we end up going. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, Helena can definitely answer that, but I just want to say something, because she said this to me one day, made me laugh. She's like, Feven, we don't even have a boot to strap. I mean, I talk about, in the startup world, you start learning different words they use to communicate. And I think that's so funny to refer to things as scrappy and bootstrapping. And I turned to them and I said, we don't even have a boot to strap. Like, we just don't have any, but we have our morals, we have our integrity, we have resource, we have this ability to be very resourceful, and definitely something that we learned growing up. It's very hard to self-fund, especially when you look at, that was our only, first of all, let me just say this very plainly. That was our final, and that should have been our first method of really launching 241, because it was us constantly pitching to investors about a beauty brand. And they kind of look at us like, oh, okay, like, what, you're going to show us another beauty brand? Tell us why like the space is oversaturated. What makes you so different? And we would always give we want to be the brand that we want to see in the world, and we don't see this and that. And then it just became very tiring to constantly prove your value to someone who doesn't see your value. And it was just very taxing on our soul and our heart. And if you look at the stats, it's pretty alarming how women of color are largely, they're not funded at all. I mean, if any. And so then Fev and I kind of looked at each other, we're like, okay, instead of focusing on the stat, let's focus on our story. Let's focus on what we can do as founders and how we can connect to women like yourself, Keisha, and who have a vested interest in us like we do. It's an even exchange here. Fev can, explain our list of no's. And oh yes, Keisha, we had, I think 0.2% of venture funding goes to women of color, which to me is just alarming. It's alarming, and also bad business, because women of color outspend people that are not Black, that are, you know what I mean? So I think
like 10 times.
Yeah, but nine times more. 9 times. Can you believe that? So we have spending power here. So at the end of the day, it's just bad business. But I'll get to that point later.
Mm-hmm.
But so initially we went to raise funds we had a previous startup before, and we have an Excel spread of, I think, 71 no's. And we decided to dissolve that company because it came down to we had another founder, and it just came down to the team not aligning. And so Helena and I, 2 weeks later, came up with 241 Cosmetics. So once we dissolved that company, we worked on that company for about 3 years. 2 weeks later, we came up with 241 Cosmetics, and it was just really simple. Because we had learned from our failures, we were like, okay, well, what are we passionate about? And it really is empowering women, but also Helena and I really do appreciate makeup. We don't see cosmetics or the beauty space as a frivolous thing. So we started to focus our energy on that space. And then as we kind of dived in and we're looking at the landscape, we realized that a lot of the people who are making decisions don't look like that. Right. And also the options that we see at, huge conglomerates that offer these, they don't really speak to people like us.
Right. Yeah.
And the products don't work for us.
And so we have a blog called Feven and Helena, and the most popular or most engaging section or category on our site, which it was focused on food, fashion, decor, and more, happened to be beauty. So it was always like, oh, how do you guys do your eyeliner? What do you do for your skin? What kind of things do you eat? Because beauty actually starts from the inside. It actually starts with your gut health. And then it goes, and then it goes on beyond. But it was just something that was a natural thing for us to discuss with people. And we have an inside joke that Fev and I, I don't know if it's a joke, but it's a philosophy. It says, don't let the eyeliner fool you. And it's oftentimes people are always commenting on our eyeliner. And it was our way of saying, like, don't let the eyeliner, don't get this twisted. We are resourceful. We are smart. I think we have to positive affirmations here. So we're very bright women, and there's so many of us, and we have to stand in our strength, honestly.
Yeah. And also, don't let the eyeliner fool you is it's a play. It was really the idea that beauty is not something to us that is just this vacuous thing. It's not this only the exterior. It's also the interior, inside what you have, but it's brains and beauty. So our brand philosophy, 241, is about enhancing the beauty that you already have, but also it's about empowering women to be both. You can be both. You can be brains and beauty. Keisha, do you know the story behind 241 Cosmetics and like the name?
I don't. If you could share it, that would be great.
So 241 Cosmetics, it's a play on words. Growing up as twins, people will constantly ask us, are you guys 2-4-FOR-1?
No.
And I was like, are you 2 for 1? And my dad thought that was a really unhealthy question for them to ask. And, he was like, absolutely not. There is no discount on your self-worth. Your mother did have one pregnancy and she gave birth to twins, which, by the way, our mother had no idea she's having twins. Keisha, can you believe that? She had no clue.
Awesome.
Yeah, she didn't. Isn't that amazing? She had no idea. So I came out first, and then Helena came out 15 minutes later in this tiny hut in Gibraltar, Sudan.
That's just unbelievable.
With no medicine to alleviate the pain.
Unbelievable. And so she went through that natural birth in the hut, no medication, no doctors around, no support.
There's a midwife and our father standing outside of the hut. We were born in a hut made of mud and grass.
Such an amazing story.
And our mother, by the way, is tiny. She's only 5 feet, maybe like 100 and, 15, 20 pounds when she had us.
And I'm visualizing, because I'm a very visual person. So as you guys are speaking, I'm visualizing the hut. I'm visualizing her at 115 pounds. And I know when I gave birth what that was like. And I had a ton of folks around me, and I can't, it's unbelievable.
Yes. I mean, it is. And in the dark. That's another thing. I always think about, I'm like, wow, it was in the dark.
Yes.
You're right, because all we had was candlelight at that point.
At that time.
And our mother is the greatest example of strength. I mean, the fact that she did that and she survived is unreal. And she's definitely a faith-based person. And it makes you look at things and you just, life is truly a gift, right?
It is. It is. As you guys know, I know all too well. Absolutely a gift.
Your story is so inspiring to us.
Yeah, I know. And to be honest with you, sometimes, as I'm sure you feel sometimes, and your mother too, your parents, that sometimes it just feels like, surreal because of where you're coming from and the hurdles that you've had to jump through. And so I wanted to ask too about how you guys did it in terms of bootstrapping and deciding either to use your savings or other funds that you had put aside, and how did you come to that decision and deciding to just go full force ahead with that?
Well, we didn't really have a choice because no one wanted. We had 2 people who wanted to invest, but they weren't the right fit. And then one of them was somebody that I knew personally that I just felt if I took his money, it's Helena, I would be I feel like he would cloud my vision and my self-esteem throughout the process. So Fev and I looked at each other and we thought, okay, how about we take the bet on ourselves? Because essentially you're taking a bet. I made a and I will say it, foolish mistake where I had a full-time position and then I quit it full-time. I quit I quit this full-time job to focus on this other company that was a sinking ship, quite honestly. It was very exciting and it was good, but I shouldn't have quit. To me, I think it was naive of me to just, quit a job where I had benefits, 401ks, I was vested, healthcare. We did in America, you have to pay for healthcare. Mm-hmm. So it's a great thing when you have a position when you can do that. I learned really that you can do both until you can't do both, meaning that you can do a full-time job and start a company until the company can pay for itself and eventually pay you. Bev and I don't pay ourselves. We put all our money into the company still. So we took our savings, to be very specific. We took our savings and then we took on some jobs. Fev took on some design work. We actually designed the late great Nipsey Hussle's co-working space in Crenshaw district. So we did that. And then I work full time as well now during this pandemic, and also do 2-for-1. But and that 2-for-1 is that's my bet. That's me saying this is my contribution to this world. It's my sister and I together building something that we don't see, and products that we absolutely love. But in order to to really just cut through all the noise, we've been focusing on the story of who we are. We don't go on holidays. We don't go on vacations. We put the vacation on layaway, if you will, and we put all the money towards the business.
Yeah, lots of delayed gratification. But I have to say that, I have a support system at home. So I have a husband who supports me. Helena took on a full-time job, and then I took I took design jobs to fund our
interior
business. Yeah, so I would design incredible properties in Los Angeles. And it's funny because I'm like, you know what, I'm going to work one day, or not work, I should say. I'm going to get that house one day too. But for now, I'm going to design it.
That's amazing, because that's the dilemma that so many entrepreneurs face is, do I quit the job? Do I stay on? Can I manage both, especially if kids involved or some other obligations? And so it's interesting to hear how you guys make it work. I think that's very interesting for others who are listening in and they want to know how you did it and how they can possibly even attempt to start. Because for so many people, especially during COVID, who've lost their jobs or who've been downsized, they're thinking about the next step. How do I pivot and how do I get started? And for so many, and I talk about this in my book, Holistic Wealth as well, it's taking the risk. And for so many, it's a big barrier, even to just jump over that hoop, to use the savings, especially in.
Exactly. And it's okay to start off small. I think that sometimes people are intimidated even by the word risk. People need to know that you can do slow and steady. I firmly believe will win the race at the end of the day. Also being strategic about when you're building something, where you spend. So we put a lot of our money into the actual product and then product photography. Helena and I actually do all of the social. We wrote all of the website copy ourselves, and we came up with the creative vision. So we didn't have to outsource or spend money in that sense. We really tapped into our own resources.
Yeah.
And I should say something as well, because you mentioned kids. Helena says this jokingly. She's like, "Can we talk about egg equity?"
I was going to jump in.
Talk about egg equity.
No, I was literally about to jump in there because I applaud women who, you guys actually inspire me to be able to do both. I actually told a friend of mine, I said, well, 2-for-1 is not a child. It's not an actual life. So I bet she inspires me because she juggles so much. And my mother juggled so much with my father, of course. They did it together. But I thought if they came to America, had to learn a different language, a new language, and just clawed their way. We saw from this very primitive lifestyle to now they live a very, comfortable lifestyle. Then they're really great examples to us. Our parents really help us, and they navigated this idea of dreaming for us, I would say. I think that you have to silence the noise around you and just spend as little time on social media. Because I think social media gives, especially with our generation, gives this false idea of what an entrepreneur is. It's not somebody who's immediately going to get verified on Instagram and see, with aviators and near a Porsche and some, photo op. It's not that, stepping out. It's not a staged photo. There's a falseness to that. And it's actually Fem and I, we very much trimmed the fat. Someone actually said something to us from a very prestigious school. And he said they don't have to go to grad school for a business because they just know things inherently. And I thought, Fem said it once, she's like, well, life is the best teacher. Life is really the greatest gift and the best teacher. And
although we did graduate from colleges, yeah.
Yeah, graduate school, I was saying. Yeah, so we have an undergraduate degree, but from business school is a different. Feven's degree is not business and mine is not business at all. But taking your money is scary. I actually pulled money from my 401k. I cashed out my 401k in my previous venture, not 2-for-1. And I'm telling you, it was the silliest move ever. I quit and then I went all out. My heart, my gut, I knew it wasn't the right company. And I just did all of that because I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. Because I got this idea of what an entrepreneur is. And then I started looking at the people who were telling me what an entrepreneur is. And I'm like, I don't want that. Those are you don't know my life and you don't know your life.
No, that's so interesting. There's so much there. That's so much wisdom in those statements.
I made a joke one time. I said, Feven, they talk about sweat equity in the startup space. I'm like, but what about egg equity?
And women risk a lot more.
Yeah, everything, like fertility. Yeah. Like, so we talk about that. Like we want to have children. We want to have babies one day. And I'm letting at this point, God, just do your thing.
Yeah.
But
continue to do your thing.
Yes, thank you. It's just funny. I'm like, there is, because you're like, okay, our bodies, it feels like a ticking time bomb in your uterus. And then you're trying to do this company, and if you don't have kids, it's just like, it's a lot of things to juggle.
Yeah.
That's so true. For women, there's just so much more to consider. And some of it I even talk about in my book. When I had to give up so much after my husband died, I really burned some career equity there. When I decided to take a 1-year sabbatical to look after my kids, I had no choice though anyway, right? Because one was born 8 weeks after my husband died, and the other one was just 3 years old. And I was suddenly a single mom and had to figure out what were my next steps. So definitely for women, there's so many things that we have to think about and to juggle. And yes, once kids are in the picture too, and even before, it's a lot of thinking through what the best move is at the best time. Because as you mentioned, where we have a time associated with all these decisions. And I wanted to ask you about the path to Oprah and how that happened. There was this other entrepreneur. She was so amazing that I interviewed. And she said to me, in terms of her marketing and branding, that, how sometimes as entrepreneurs, we look at these big social media accounts and we think we should go all out to try to attract those people to get on those accounts, because then we'll get more attention on our products. But she said that what worked for her was local micro influencers for spreading the word about her brand. And so I wanted to ask you guys if in your marketing strategy or in your branding, you had that focus, and if you had reached out to influencers, and what was your experience with that?
I have friends that are influencers, and I have a lot of respect for what they do. But personally, that was not our route or our strategy. I would say one of the things I'm most proud of about our business is that we're incredibly authentic. And so we came from, our marketing strategy was more from an organic perspective. Our mentor, Bobby Brown, recently validated our instincts because she said it herself. She was like, you guys have to move slow and steady, but also she's like organic. Because when you build authentic relationships with customers, it's not about having this huge social media platform, but actually having quality people and quality relationships. So there's a term micro influencers, and then there's also another term called nano influencers. And that's more of the 10K and above. So we have a combination of those two people or two targeted groups. But primarily Instagram has been our method of connecting with those influencers or those people. But the short answer is Feven and I don't pay. We do not, $0 doing any product integration or any ads with influencers. It's almost like the Mary Kay route, but through social media, where women will tell their friends about our products, and that's that. It's really that. It's word of mouth.
That's amazing to know too. And I think that's also a good strategy, because so many times people think that, with a certain kind of business, I'm going to have to do influencer marketing. And how do I establish a budget for that? And all of that pressure that we put on ourselves, that's sometimes unnecessary.
I've seen a few influencers who, they're pushing maybe 10 different products a week. And it's hard for me to trust a consumer to trust them. So when Helena and I were literally we actually took ourselves off of social media for 4 months to really focus on our brand strategy. And we decided that it was going to be, as Helena said, our strategy is about a feeling, and it's about creating premium products, but also that woman with a feeling of being seen, of being valued, of being heard. So that was our marketing strategy, was, making her feel acknowledged.
And so can you tell us a bit about how you got on the list and the process and how it happened with Oprah's team?
You create a quality product, create a quality brand that other people want to know about. That's actually how you're going to attract people like Oprah Winfrey. That's how you're going to attract Bobbi Brown. Bobbi Brown actually saw us and mentor us. And we met her through Instagram. And she says, what are you guys doing? I want to know more. And then she's like, can I mentor you? I mean, so it became something about like almost like a spiritual journey in a way, where we were really feeling aligned. And we took ourselves off of social media to really cut out the noise. Beauty to us is actually a meditative process. It's the one time that you get to spend looking at yourself in a mirror in an unfiltered version. And what are you actually saying to yourselves? Because we're constantly talking to ourselves, whether we know it or not. And so we were very, very intentional about the names. Role model, muse, like you are all of those. You are a role model. You are a muse. You are, redemption is one of my favorites. Your redemption. It's just all of that. So again, people will come when you have good things, like when you actually have quality things. And I want to add, because you asked how we got on Oprah's favorite things list, and I'm presuming you're a spiritual person. We're spiritual people, right? Yes. So before we actually launched our website, like Helena mentioned, we got off of Instagram. And you want to know the one audiobook we played in the background when we were writing the copy for 2-for-1 Cosmetics? You want to know what it is?
I have an idea.
What?
I know it's one of Oprah's.
Yeah! What do you think it is?
I can't remember the title, but I did see it on your Instagram. So I know it's one of hers.
So the one audiobook we had in the background was Oprah Winfrey's What I Know for Sure.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? So
it is incredible.
God is so good. And I really believe life is always speaking to you, and it's up to us to actually listen. And I was sitting there, Helena was like, okay, because Helena named all the products, and we were writing the copies together. And I just heard Oprah's voice in my head for role model. You are the most influential person you're going to meet.
Oh my gosh. That is just unbelievable.
So then I think a year later, because of what was happening around
Black Lives
Matter movement, we were getting picked up by publications like Allure. We got a feature in InStyle magazine. Bobbi Brown reached out to mentor us. And it was like a spiraling, kind of like a perfect storm, as you will, because literally that July, when that Insta article was came out, we got an email from Oprah Winfrey's team asking to feature us. We didn't know it was going to be for her favorite things.
Wow.
And then it ended up being something that we actually collaborated on with Oprah with. These colors were all collaboration with Oprah herself.
That's awesome. The colors are glorious. They're just divine. They look so good. And you know what, guys? This is how it came up. This whole personal financial identities framework, it's coming out of my book, Holistic Wealth, because I'll tell you what, after my husband died, I realized that I had only partially embraced mine. And I realized that if I had fully embraced it, I could do so much more. I could have been so much more confident in my money decisions. And so I got to thinking after the book was published, because readers kept texting me on Instagram. So what's the personal financial identity thing all about? And so that's how I came up with this quiz and the 4 categories, because I knew in my heart he was a minimalist. And I figured I was more of a risk taker, but I just couldn't put my hands on it. So after lots of thinking, I came up with this. And so I'm happy to hear your results and to hear what you guys think, because it's so exciting about your brand and it's so gorgeous. So can you tell us about your results and what you think of those results?
We both got the minimalist result. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Yeah. Well, you said your husband
he was a minimalist.
Before I answer your question, what made you think that did you take the test yourself?
You know what? I did multiple times, took the test multiple times. I came up with it. And you know what's funny? I used his profile to come up with the minimalist profile, because he is that to a T. And I've always known it. We've never discussed it though. So even when he was alive, we never discussed it. But I just knew, because he was, that mantra that I have in the quiz for the minimalist? just a simple life, clean, simple life. That's what he was. And so that's exactly how I came up with that. And it's so interesting. I want to hear more about what you guys think about that and how that's translated into your brand and in your life and your business.
It made so much sense that we were the minimalist, because Helena and I look at beauty, and if you look at our beauty routine, it's actually quite simple. And simple's not a bad thing, by the way. I only asked what your results were because to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a risk taker, right? So there's a component to that. But I would argue that to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to trim the fat on a lot of things. And with what we had to do at 2 for 1, because we were not, we didn't have the luxury of getting a ton of money and just, trying this product out and this product out and like this, that, and the other. We have to be very precise and clear. It has transcended in how we live our lives as well. I like that one of your questions was something about a lavish vacation. I'm like, what does that mean? Exactly. What does that mean? What does it mean? I mean, Feven does travel, a lot with her husband, but even so, yeah, it technically is a vacation. Sometimes. But I only say, but when they're going to Africa. It's not like they're, taking a trip to, I'm saying it's more meaningful. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's more work related.
Yeah. So, Feven and I were much more particular about our finances. Like we treat our everything like they're gold. It took me a long time to replace my MacBook Pro. Now I have a new one, but I had to learn how to save. And I think it really comes down to, we grew up with not very much, and now we have a different lifestyle now, but those things don't really leave you. Like our father always went straight to the sales rack, and that's something that my sister and I still do. You could be a minimalist with awesome style, and really just be, to us, it's being consistent and being classic. But also, taste is not synonymous with cost. And so when I saw that, I was a minimalist. I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense because I'm not going to spend recklessly.
Frivolously,
yeah. And Helena and I believe that taste is something that, not only cannot be taught, but can't be bought. So it makes sense to me why we're the minimalists.
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing is that I think it was funny because I was watching a documentary earlier, and I literally was talking to Feven about this documentary
3 days ago.
But right before I took the exam, your pop quiz, not your exam, your quiz, I told Feven, I go, oh my gosh, Feven, what was I just telling you about this morning? No, right before. Yeah. And the documentary is called Minimalism.
Yes, on Netflix. I watched it a couple of days ago too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched it a couple of days ago.
Exactly.
That's a sign I got to watch it now. And I got that. There's so much stuff going on in the world. And if you look at Feven, our products, we don't have an overflowing amount of products where you're like, oh my God, we have a tyranny of choices. Keisha, what did you think that we were going to be?
I don't know. I looked at the website, I looked at the products, and they look rich. They do. And the quality is there. And I thought you guys would have been maximalists, not because I am associating that with like spending a lot or going, overboard, but just because of the quality that I saw coming out with the products. Because I've had experience, because so many entrepreneurs have taken the quiz now, and that's kind of like a trend I've seen with some of the maximalists. And of course, like I'm still, getting people to do the quiz so I can get insights too, because it's so interesting for me to get back these insights, especially from entrepreneurs. But you know what though? When you said you were a minimalist, I saw, like, I had the picture of the products and everything in my head. And I said, yeah, I can totally see that. And I can definitely see how your background and your story just lends itself to that. So, I mean, either way, it's great. It's amazing. I was wondering if the two of you would be the same, and if you were different as business partners, how that would work, and what was the dynamic. So that's always been of interest to me. And so that's why I wanted to know. But to know that the two of you are the same, which is amazing. And for business too, it must be so seamless because
but we go back and forth on certain things though, for sure. What's so great about what we can do, as Fev and I can do together, is that we make decisions quick. And I think that's a thing that entrepreneurs need to be aware of. You have to make decisions and you have to move quick, because that's actually your competitive edge from bigger companies who have a big
room of, C-suites and CEOs. It takes a lot to make a decision to get it going. With us, it's just the two of us, and we hire and other people to help build up the site, photography, all of that stuff. But when it comes to day-to-day decisions, Fem and I are so quick that we tend to move quicker, even with Oprah's favorite things. And it was such a dream. Honestly, it's still kind of unreal.
That feels surreal.
Oh my gosh, it's so surreal. And the fact that she even has this beautiful quote about us, and that's just incredible. She acknowledged our country. I just want to end on something though, with whoever is listening to this podcast. It can be a scary thing to be an entrepreneur but you can do both. I keep stressing that. I feel like Sarah Blakely from Spanx, we saw this amazing masterclass with her. I don't know if you subscribe to masterclass, but hers was incredible. And she said something that I just have been, it's just so important to the journey. And she says that you could do both until you can't do both, because she was doing Spanx. I mean, she owns it 100% still. And she was selling fax machines. She was going door to door, and that's how she was actually paying for her company. But the second thing that she said was that no one wants to get rich slow. And that's something that Warren Buffett said. And just there's this idea of like, you're going to be $1 billion company in 3 years. I think that idea is kind of dangerous. And I really, really encourage people to think slower when it comes to the successes of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, wise words. And I totally agree. And it's something that I think we all have to be mindful about, because we see these success stories in the media, right? And we don't see the work that goes behind that. We don't see the years of struggle, years and years and years of, sacrifice. And sometimes it's a distortion too, when people look on and they're like, oh, I wonder if, because, I've started my business, but I wonder if things aren't going right for me because look at the success this person had over there. So I think that's really good advice. And I just want to thank you both for being here, for sharing your insights again. It's been amazing. And before we go, just can you tell the audience where to find you, your website and social media?
Yes, you can find us at 241cosmetics.com.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And our Instagram is at 241cosmetics.
Wow. That's awesome. You guys are so amazing. So amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
You are a light.
Thank you so much for your strength and your resilience and for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you. And continued success to you.
Thank you so much. You guys are so amazing. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this week on Holistic Wealth with Keisha Blair. Make sure to visit our website, KeishaBlair.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you will never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. Are you a member of the Institute on Holistic Wealth? If not, what are you waiting for? Go to instituteonholisticwealth.com/memberships to choose your membership plan and join. As a member, you get so many perks. Free worksheets, advice, coaching, and a member's workshop to design an intentionally designed life. You need to figure out your life purpose? Take the Build Your Life Purpose Portfolio online self-paced course. You're struggling with all your money decisions? Take the free financial identities quiz and then take the course. You recently had a breakup, job loss, or experienced the death of a loved one? Take the Holistic Healing course. You need an overall plan to achieve holistic wealth? We will help you figure out your holistic wealth blueprint. And of course, if you want to start making money by helping others achieve holistic wealth, become a certified holistic wealth consultant. Regardless of what career you've got, the Institute will show you how to increase your income and walk in your purpose. The sooner you join, the sooner you start to achieve a more holistically wealthy lifestyle. And you're going to want to stay for a very long time. So go to instituteonholisticwealth.com/memberships to join. If you haven't read the book yet, pick up a copy of the award-winning best-selling Holistic Wealth 32 Life Lessons to help you find purpose, prosperity, and happiness.